Welcome everyone to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. Today's is a bit of an experiment. It's a little bit of a different approach to the pick a card general choice and how it's being done. It did come from a viewer request, which was a really intriguing and interesting idea that I'll go into, but because of the nature of the idea, I really thought it begs a slightly different approach to choosing a pile and what you might consider when you do it. So I would ask you to listen to the introduction for this one because it's going to be important. And if you don't and you just jump straight to the point in the timestamps to choose a pile, you might be a little bit lost at the beginning of the reading in terms of what I'm trying to do. So it is worth hearing this. It is worth getting the sort of background to it. Because what she suggested was to do something about how to really maximize and work through almost the chemical alchemy of the soul, like the sort of connection between our bodies, what we are made of, what we are in the 3D, and then also what our soul's evolution is, which is a beautiful distillation of what alchemy is anyway. And she made the point that if you were going through a Ace of Cups type experience or something that was, a big emotional water type experience, the fact that we are 70% water in our physical forms could have some impact on how we're dealing with it and maybe even why emotional things are so much something that draws to us. And if you think about it in terms of the tides and the moon and the water there sort of calling to us and so forth as well, it's a really interesting idea. But it kind of stumped me for a little bit about how do I approach that? It's such a fascinating idea. And then what I thought about was I have a friend who does Chinese medicine, and we've talked about it sometimes. And I have been to Chinese medicine people dealing with digestive problems, and I've personally found it, an amazingly effective modality. Now, I am not a doctor. I'm not a Chinese medicine expert. There is nothing in this reading that is meant to be health advice in any broad medical sense. There may be energetic things that come up and so forth in it that you might want to think about, but get the right advice, whether that's a Chinese medical practitioner or more traditional Western medical practitioner, that's completely up to you. I'm not really looking at it for that reason about health. I'm looking at it about the elements that Chinese medicine uses and how they relate to the elements of the tarot, and also what that relates to in maybe where our primary energy might be. So we may either be very much a person who is of the air element, for instance, very much in our heads all the time, or it might be that we are going through a period in our life where that becomes the dominant element because we're studying for a qualification, or we are building some sort of architectural sort of design, or we're doing a scientific review or something like that. Or we may be somebody who's very earthy and very grounded, and we like structure and we like things that are reliable, or we might be at a point where we're starting a family or we're starting to build a business, and so that earth element is important. So there's all of those things that might draw us to a particular energy within the chemical alchemy of those elements and those sort of tendencies more at one time than another. Or it might be, as I say, that we are something primarily in that space, and possibly even understanding your astrology chart might tell you if you are predominantly air, fire, earth, water, and so forth. So that's interesting. And then when you lay on top of it the fact that Chinese medicine has 5 elements, but 2 I think kind of come together around the earth element, and that being earth itself and then wood. Then there's fire, water, and metal seems to sort of align with air. And they all have particular qualities. So I want to go through what those qualities are because I want you to think about that, and think about that in terms of the choice, because I'm using different packs for each of the readings here. And what I'm going to ask you to do is think about where either the predominant element is that you're dealing with at the moment that you want to explore and that you think is important to your soul's evolution, your life purpose, and so forth. Or if you really think, no, I'm an air person, through and through. Then instead of just saying just choose anything here, I'll be saying go for the element that most draws to you, because when I'm looking at the cards, I'm going to be looking for the preponderance of that energy, whether it's balanced, whether it's too much, whether it's too little compared to others, to try and get a sense about what could be impacting your spiritual alchemy at this point in time. So it's very important. It's important to choose the right pack. And by all means, if you feel, look, I'm primarily air, but at the moment sitting in earth, then maybe you look at 2 readings and you amalgamate them together. But it's different to the normal, what do you feel? And at the end of the day, if you listen to all of this and you think, I don't even know where I really fit, then by all means go with what you most feel or what most draws to you. But just to help with that, before the timestamp clicks over into the choice and I talk through that, just to give you a bit of an idea about what Chinese medicine talks about for these elements. So for wood, which is one of the ones I think that connects, wood and earth connect, wood's type of personality is very much about growth and focusing upwards. So when that connects with, say, earth, which is dependable, solid, loyal, peaceful, harmonious, that's where you might get the energy where you're trying to grow a business or something like that. And it's you want consistency, you want stability, you might be trying to start a family, those sort of things. That would be a good connection between wood and earth, which I think is best depicted by coins or pentacles in the tarot. And interestingly enough, if those are your predominant energies at the moment, or more generally, you will probably, on a physical level, know whether things are flowing well in terms of things around your gallbladder and your liver for the wood side of things, and with your stomach, your digestive system, your spleen, that sort of thing, with the earth side of things. So there may be a kind of a hint there that when things get overdone, that could get sluggish, and when it's being underdone, it could get blocked in a different way. Chinese medicine talks about the flow of life energy, which is qi. So those may be points in your body where you start to feel something, if it's an indication from your soul that there is a blockage or an issue going on. So that's just information to maybe help you work out whether that's a dominant element for you. For fire, which I think is best represented by wands in the tarot, the personality type is energetic, passionate, strong-willed. You have charisma. You really want to sort of get going with things. You're joyful, optimistic for the most part, and so forth. There is a risk of over-excitation, difficulty sleeping, trying hard to unwind, and so forth. And it's interesting because in Chinese medicine, it's the wood element that's a bit more of a type A personality, but I suspect within the tarot, the type A personality toggles a bit between the two. So that over-excitation and finding it hard to settle down is a wand sort of thing, which might also be a bit of a type A personality. The wand's energy, or the fire energy, rules the heart. So what comes from the heart, what comes from passion, and so forth. For the air element, I'm thinking metal is the closest, and that's characteristics are inner strength and integrity, very disciplined, very rational, very organized, very studied and careful. You can get overcritical, you can get a bit judgmental. That's what swords energy can do as well too. And the area of the body that is most ruled by the metal or air element here is the lungs. So I think, it's how much you feel that you can breathe freely, voice your opinion, and so forth. And then for the cups energy, or the water energy, you're strong-willed, you're self-sufficient, you're determined, you're a seeker of knowledge, you have very strong EQ. That's what's interesting about this. The heart is actually being ruled by fire under the Chinese astrology, but of course under tarot it probably sits just as much with the Queen of Cups, so think about that. You can get too introspective or too sensitive if you have the water element. And the thing that is ruled there in the body is the kidneys. So I think it's interesting, going back to the viewer who suggested this at the beginning, it's sort of like when you have an abundance of water or that sort of energy, it's got to kind of be processed through your body and then dispatched off, so to speak. So that's how that energy is able to be managed, and it's done through the kidneys and the functioning of the kidneys. Now, as I say, this is not a medical diagnosis. This is not, I think I have heart problems, so I better go for this particular one, or so forth. That's not really the purpose of this. This is meant to be more of what's the sort of personality type, and then some of those sort of physical indications to remind us that we're in the 3D world, we're in a body, and that will reflect to some degree how our energy is operating and how our spiritual alchemy is going and how on point we are for the energies at the moment, both for our life path and for what we're doing at the moment. So with that understanding, and thank you for bearing with me on that, as I say, we're now going to look at the choice of pile. And so there are a number of ways to choose. As I said, I'm using a different deck for each reading, and I've chosen decks that I think really represent the element well. So for the first one, pile 1 is for the earth and wood element. So if you strongly connected to that, I'm using the Somnia Tarot, and I'm also representing the root chakra. I feel that's if that is your primary personality, or if that is your main focus at the moment, and your sort of spiritual alchemy and achievement and manifestation connects mainly to those elements, then pile 1 would be the pile for you. If the fire personality and the fire attributes and self-actualization, like the solar plexus chakra stone, calls to you, I'm using the Flights of Fantasy tarot for that, because it has lots of fiery, bright, vibrant energy and really feels like fire energy, and that would be your pile. If you were drawn more to the metal side of things, the inner strength and integrity, the discipline, the rationality, or you're doing something in your life that calls upon that, and the crown chakra, then pile 3 would be your pile. And if you are more drawn to the water element, so that sort of strong will, strength, but that also that emotional basis and that sort of very high EQ, or you're drawn to things that are about love and so forth, then with the heart chakra there, pile 4 would be your pile. So I do think hopefully 1 will draw to you more because of those reasons. If you aren't really sure, if you're kind of a bit of balance of all of them, and you just want to sort of go with your gut instinct, then by all means do it. And as I said, you can go to more than 1 if you like. But once you've decided, the timestamps are in the description box below, and you'll see as the reading goes through why it was that I really wanted that particular type of thought process to go into the choice. So when you're ready, I'll see you there. Welcome to your reading, pile 1. So this first row of cards I'm using to get a sense about where, firstly, your predominant energy, having picked the pile that is about the earth and the wood sort of element in Chinese medicine, and the earth element in the tarot, what that balance is and what that might be telling us about where you're at with your spiritual alchemy at the moment, and then what other factors are playing or predominant in some way. Now, in the way of looking at this, I'm going to look at it firstly around balance and the type of cards, then I'm going to talk about what I think the cards are telling us as a narrative. So firstly, you've very much honed in on the right reading for yourself. I think it's being very strongly confirmed because 3 of the 5 cards are coins, so they are about the earth element in some way. The other suit or the other element that is being represented is cups or water. So there is an emotional connection and something new and emotional around what you're doing. There's almost like a reviving of the heart, of the love of what it is that you were trying to do, who you are trying to be, what that sort of spiritual alchemy is. Because of some sort of creative energy, something external. I'm seeing all the major arcana as being external influences on you. And with the Empress, it's a very nurturing and a very creative and inspiring sort of energy. And I think is a very nice connection, really. The Empress feels like a really nice connection between the earthy side of things and the heart. So I feel as though for some of you, there could be a significant relationship at the moment that is very much key to you staying in love with your journey and with what you're trying to create in the world and who you're trying to be in the world. And I think that that's good because all of the coins are reversed. This suggests to me one of the elements that can happen when you are very strongly earth and wood oriented is that you can get completely exhausted. You can become a workaholic. You can become very fixated. So with 3 of those all reversed, it might suggest at the moment that you do need to take a little bit of time out. You need a bit of a rest. It looks as though a new idea, a new passion, a new creative project is wanting to be born and come into being. But it's possible at the moment that you've exhausted yourself a bit, that you are the prototypical workaholic. And what you've found recently, I think, because I think you're normally very good at manifesting and bringing things into being, is that certain energies that you've been doing and certain projects that you've been on have not been returning the reward that you would want them to. And so that's really picking up this energy around it's not the need to just keep slogging on and slogging on and slogging on, because there is a new inspiration wanting to come for you. And in terms of your spiritual alchemy, that exhaustion can reduce your capacity to manifest. You naturally can manifest very well in the 3D. Of all of the suits, you're probably the one that is most at home in this earth, that most understands this earth, that most can do the things. And that's partly why you become a workaholic. We tend to do a lot of what we're really good at, and you're really good at that. But it does look like you've exhausted yourself. So you've been true to your spiritual alchemy, you've been true to who you are, but you have depleted your resources just a little bit too much. So although it's not a bad thing at all for somebody who aligns themselves to the material to have that many coins, it does say that you know yourself very well and you are on the right path. You just need time out. You need a break. The worst thing that you could do for your spiritual alchemy, for your manifestation, for your great work, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, is to just push on, because you're not going to reach this new inspiration. You're not going to start to bring the abundance in. There's something that's not working, and whether it is literally a project that's not working or a relationship that's not working, that hasn't returned what you thought it was going to do in terms of an investment, and you need to let that go to let the new energy in, new love in if it's a relationship, or whether it's just that you need a rest. And I think you'll know better, because I think it could be either. I think either of those things could be occurring at the moment around your spiritual alchemy, around you really being able to be more and more true to who you are and what your life purpose is. So let's ask Spirit for a little bit more information on that, some clarification on that first sort of run through about where you're up to and how to focus, because I think at the moment the main thing is to rest, recuperate. I'm getting, look at your diet, are you getting all the nutrients that you need, that sort of thing. It's not so much that you need exercise, you need a break. Go on a holiday if you can, spend a day or two in a spa. Indulge yourself a bit, because I don't think you normally do. But do look at your diet, because there's something about energy in and energy out that is out of balance for you at the moment. So let's get some clarification and advice from Spirit about this in your life. Okay, so it's very interesting that the clarification in this on the Major Arcana is the only other Major Arcana again. So this is clarifying this external sort of nurturing presence for you. It's one that comes after you've had a rest, because with the Sun reversed, it feels as though you aren't shining your own energy brightly enough yet to bring that energy in. It's sort of doubling down on this idea of take a little bit of time out if you can. I mean, if you can't in your work, then just try and ease off to the degree that you can, and don't bring your work home with you. Don't put in so much discretionary effort, because it's not going where you want it to. And the more that you do that, the more you're going to just exhaust yourself mentally as well with the Nine of Swords there. I think you're someone who is, as I say, extremely good at manifesting. It's part of your kind of spiritual power, and it may be really disturbing to you at the moment if something isn't returning the investment, but it's just meant to make you understand that you worry too much that everything has to succeed. You are naturally good at this. So if something isn't working, that's you really knowing in some way that it's not the right thing, so that you can clear that energy out. But it's again saying get some sleep. You need some rest. Like you're overextending your mental faculties, as well as sort of like what's happening to you sort of physically around this as well too, and needing a rest. It may be that for some of you, there is somebody around you who is highly critical. It may be a parental figure, it could be a sibling, it could be a friend. I feel as though some of this is that when you are a winning person, it's winning, and you're getting all these things, then you get the approval of this rather sort of judgmental person. When it isn't working, you worry about how they're going to see it. And I think that Spirit is saying that doesn't matter, because you are naturally able to manifest. You just need to be the one who makes the decisions about what you do and what you don't do, and so forth. There's also something around the balance between the heart and the activity. For some of you, this thing that hasn't worked out may have been a relationship, and it may have been because the person was too critical, lived too much in their head, and just didn't understand what you were doing. like wanted all the facts and figures all the time, didn't understand the magic and the alchemy of what you did. That's a possibility. It's also possible that you were so heavily into your work that you let a potential romantic opportunity go away and there's another one coming in. So I think it's going to depend on who comes to this reading, but I feel that this is trying to say to you, the mind is not really going to help you. It's critical, it worries, it catastrophizes, and it reduces your natural fire and creativity. So try and stay out of your mind. It's not an element that works all that well for you at this point in time, at least. It's not to say that you're not smart or anything like that. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about levels of intelligence or anything like that. I'm talking about what elements work best for you. You work best as a mix of the material outcomes of the earth and wood elements and the heart. And if you connect those two things together, it brings in the inspiration and allows you to succeed and bring in the right relationships for you, to be able to see and start the right relationships that revive that sense of self and that sense of harmony. So for you, the thing that you need to understand is that there is nothing lesser about being really able to manifest in the material world. And that could be anything. It could be a business. It could be that you're very good with your hands. You could be a labourer. You could be anything. It is not lesser, say, than somebody who sits on a grand academic perch, with lots of letters after their name. There is a genius towards being able to work with the material in some way. And as I say, it could be anywhere and anything that you do with that. And for some of you, it may be the marriage of something very material with creativity. You could be a sculptor or something like that. But you have a tendency to overwork and be too critical on yourself and let other people's critiques affect you too much. So that's the point at this point. It's understanding that you are on the right path. What you are focusing on is the right thing. Other people's opinions should be like let go, because they're just white noise, really. And somewhere doing that brings in better relationship energy, love energy, or just makes you back in love with what you were doing. So let's have a look at this on a material level. And then we're going to have a look at it on a spiritual level before sort of closing out with the sort of other elements that bring it all together for you. So to look at it on a material level, first of all, there were a number of cards that were under the tarot card. One was a healing card, like what needs to be healed to bring this into balance. So that card for you, we've got dreams. Yeah, this is just need to rest. You just need to sleep, because that wakes you up again to the dreams that were... The dreams for you come from your heart. I do think that the other element that's strong in you is water. If you were going to look at another reading as well, it would probably be good to go to the one that's for cups. So reading 4, I think that was. So there is something there. You do also dwell in the water element, and how you feel has a major effect on what you can manifest. More than what you think. You're almost at a higher level than needing to worry about the details, because you just can bring this energy in, but you have to fall back in love with the dream. There's something that's disappointed you, or somebody who's picked away at what you've been achieving, and you need to get back to that place of rest and inspiration. So let's have a look. The other cards I have are the heart code oracles for the various aspects of life. So let's see what other information there is around your 3D world and how this is all playing out for the alchemy of your soul. So firstly, around relationships, we have commitment. Okay. So I think this works on a number of levels, I think, for you. I think you are the sort of person who really does commit to relationships. It's part of the element of earth. You are reliable, you are loyal. All of that is great. And if you're in the right relationship, that's fantastic. If you're in one, however, that's too critical, then don't let your commitment tie you to something that isn't right for you. And if it's a kind of equivocal thing, like overall it's an okay relationship, but it's like you just need to get your sense of what should be more in balance compared to what the other person is saying, then I think this is about being committed to yourself, committed to your own well-being, committed to your body, to your spiritual alchemy, your chemistry, all that sort of thing, so that you can be fighting fit for what you need to do. So relationships need to be, if you're going to be committed to them, they need to be equally committed. It needs to be in balance. Let's have a look at finances around you. And we have accountability. Like, I don't think we have to worry about you in relation to that. I think that you would be highly accountable. You would very much know where every dollar was going and so forth. It's probably why, if this is around a creative project or a work project, you're very well aware if something's not doing a return on investment. You're more than happy to take responsibility for that. Don't take too much responsibility if someone's trying to push all the blame on you about something. Accountability is like commitment. It needs to be balanced. Around your career, we have respect. And I think that you do command a lot of respect because, as I say, you're a natural person in a career environment, in a material environment. You're a natural alchemist. You're a natural manifester and so forth. And it is important to always make sure that respect stays. And part of respect is understanding that some of what you do will be brilliant and bring in the dollars, and some of what you do may not return the investment that you expected, but you learn from it, you move on. So I think there's a lot about this of you not letting something that is a bit of a reversal make you feel that somehow you've lost your skill and your grounding, because you really haven't. And don't let people get in your head, or your own self-criticism get in your head. So on such things, let's have a look at well-being. And we've got mental health. So yeah, this is picking up this Nine of Swords. You do need to be aware that because you are such a strong earth energy, that anything that you are thinking is going to probably manifest physically, and it's going to cause you anxiety and that sort of thing, that sort of burnout feeling. I think that's the type of mental health we're talking about. You're too stable for it to be some of the more extreme things with mental health. It's much more around getting the balance right so that you don't burn out. So let's have a look at lifestyle. And we have cycle. So this is probably saying this is a cycle. There's a point where it's almost like the Wheel of Fortune card, where sometimes you're going to be on the top and winning, and sometimes it's going to be sort of something that doesn't quite return, but it will come back up again. And what you need to do in that cycle is, when the wheel is going down, is take that time out if you can. This could be that you could work seasonally. We'll take advantage of the seasons that are a little bit quieter and so forth. It could also be, for some of you, that things that have been happening in the world economy in the last year or so have had an impact monetarily and so forth, but this would suggest that as a cycle, and you will then come out of that. I think it's a very welcome sign around this, that if you, in your lifestyle, you look at cycles, and when you rest and when you work and when you feed yourself good food and when you sometimes, go a bit off the rails with that and just indulge, like if it's a cycle and there's a pattern and it's grounded, that will also tell you that the only way is up from where you've been feeling materially. So on a 3D level, I think it's very promising, as long as you get off your own back, basically, and you just allow the new stuff to come in and you take a break. Let's have a look at the spiritual side of things. So I'm wanting to pull a couple of cards from a couple of oracles that are around spiritual evolution, because this is about spiritual alchemy. So we've been looking very much about how this manifests in your material world, given your primary sort of energy processing. So let's have a look and see what Spirit has to say about where you're up to in your evolutionary journey, and then what are the gifts that you have on a spiritual level that can really help you. Okay, so firstly, there's something that you have that can teach others. It could well be how to manifest. It could well be how to materialize and how to ground and to bring things from inspiration and what the heart wants to do into something that's material, because you do have a genius for that. And once you remember that and you work out that actually genius is, it comes easy, let it flow, then you can teach others to do that. There's hidden blessings in what's been going on for you. This is saying that the struggles that you've had are to help you grow and expand, not to limit yourself. So don't go into your head and limit yourself. Be grateful for what has happened, because the wheel is turning. It's turning in your direction, and it's got to do with your creativity and so forth. There's something that you will create. This is the Empress. This is the Page of Cups. This is the Ace of Cups. It's that sort of creative energy that's coming through, and that's coming from your heart. So that's why I'm saying you're a mix of earth and water, I think, and getting those in a little bit more in balance, but understanding that your pathway, your life path, is to actually bring something into being, to create something in some way. So If it's around a relationship, it's to create the ideal relationship. If it's around career, it's to create something that is material, a business, a product, something dramatic, something that is real and material. It's not just to have a love for that and to be a fan of that. It's to be the person who creates the thing that people are fans of. So what gifts do you have that will particularly help your spiritual alchemy at this point in time, pile one? Okay, so there's a number of ways that you could manifest your creativity by the looks of things. You could write, you could be an author, you could produce sort of training courses or books or self-help guides or something like that. You know, the spiritual experiences that you have and the learnings that you have could actually be translated to and taught to other people that way. You might also literally work with the body. That could be why we see so much of the Pentacles, the earth energy. You might be a yoga instructor or some sort of health instructor that is connecting body and mind. And I actually think for you, particularly body and heart. So that may be something. You may also have a connection to an indigo child and the gamma generation. You may be from that generation. If you were born between 1978 and 1988, then you are an indigo child and you have a strong spiritual connection. All indigo children do. Or it could be that you are connected to those people and something that you're going to create and do will actually help them. For some, I'm getting, it may literally be that you are the parent of an indigo child. So if you're sort of more older and you've really established yourself and this is now trying to move into maybe semi-retirement and have a bit of a life as well as still create and be stable and all those sorts of things, it may be that part of what you will do is teach that child who is now obviously a young adult about how to manifest in a similar way that you are. So to finish off, I'm going to use the Elemental Oracle firstly, because this is all about the elements, to see anything else that Spirit wants to say about the elemental balance within your spiritual alchemy. And then we're going to use the Astro Chakra cards just to bring it all together for you. Okay, so firstly, we have water, and I felt that you are very strongly water. And so I think that this is picking up that although your primary modality is around the material and the physical and the sort of pentacle sort of energy, don't underestimate the importance of water. Also, don't underestimate the importance of hydration. When you're overtired and so forth, sometimes you can forget to do things like nourish your body with water enough. So make sure that you keep that balance right. We also have breath. I find that interesting because it's the metal element within Chinese medicine that is about the lungs. So given that you had that difficult air energy, I'm wondering whether this is also saying that meditation and getting back in alignment with your lungs could release any of that sort of mental stress that you might have. Your breath is really important to keep that energy flowing if you find yourself overthinking things, or if you find yourself, at the mercy of someone who's a little bit overcritical and so forth. Take a breath, take time out. I think there's a very strong energetic message for you there. And let's finish off with some Astro Chakra cards for you. Okay, the fact that we've got the root chakra twice, I think it's really going to this sense that I have that you're burnt out to some extent. I think it's really coming back to that. And it's really important to get back to the foundations of what is going to nourish you. You are very much physically within your body, and you need to put a primary emphasis on that. Need to make sure that you get your energy balanced, because you have the sun there and Jupiter. So that's like having the sun and Jupiter conjunct. At its best, that is that brilliance for bringing in the material, because again, the root chakra is the foundations of life. It's a bit like the foundations of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You do have a brilliance, and part of your life purpose is about bringing that into being. But it is also important that you look after yourself for the survival thing, to have the vitality to bring in the abundance. And part of the thing that you have to get into balance in your heart chakra is Jupiter is there as well, luckily for wisdom, but it is connecting to create generosity. I think you overextend yourself with others. And I think there's at least one person around you who doesn't appreciate that or takes advantage of it, and maybe manipulates you a bit because you come from such a generous place that you feel like you've always got to be at people's beck and call. But that's not the case. You do need to look after yourself first, because if you don't look after those base needs about sort of nutrition and rest and all of that kind of thing, you will not create as much as you could, and you may in fact even have brought about some of this reversal that you've recently gone through. So for you, it's about getting that balance right, understanding your genius for materialization and manifestation, but getting off your own back and letting yourself rest so that that natural tendency can come through. Then you can teach others. Then you can find all the hidden blessings in understanding the balances within your soul and within your body. So I hope, because I do think there's a lot of promise in this, I hope that that resonates for you, Pile 1. I hope it makes sense. And I hope that you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you care to share, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So this first line of cards, we're going to be looking at it firstly in the sense of the balance of the elements, particularly taking into account that you've chosen to come to the reading where the fire element is the predominant one, where things like ambition, passion, charisma, direction, and all of those sort of things, action and so forth, are an energy that you relate to and respond to. So the first thing that I'm going to do is look at that in terms of the balance of the energies. Then we're going to look at the narrative of the cards. Then we'll ask Spirit with some more cards to clarify anything there and give some advice. So the first thing I'd say is that you certainly are strong in the element that you have aligned to, because two of the best cards here, and the first two cards are both wands, and they are both very strong, with the Queen of Wands, which is self-actualized, the Six of Wands, which is victory. The other balance, what is missing is Pentacles energy or Earth energy. So I'll get to what I think that might mean. But you also have Swords or Metal energy, Five of Swords reversed, Ace of Cups reversed, and then we also have Major Arcana. And for this first part of it, I'm seeing the Major Arcana as being something that's externally balanced. So the main part of your spiritual alchemy at the moment is internal, because you have mainly suit cards. But there is an external issue around you that is impacting, and I think impacting on some of your fire energy, because the Sun as a card has a very similar energetic feel to the Wands suit in many ways. So what that is telling me, I think, is you may have a competitor. And I think you're largely winning, but there has been some cost associated with that. And in thinking about that and thinking about what's missing in terms of elements here, that might be the key. It'll be interesting to see what we get in clarification, but it might be the key, the missing element that helps you really get past any competition, because this does feel as though some of the love of what you're doing and so forth is being leached out a bit by a lot of like petty drama. And I feel, as I say, like there's a competitor, whether it's a person, whether it's a competing company, whether it's you're an actor or an actress and you're going for auditions and there's always sort of the other people there, and that kind of leaches some of that sense. Even when you get the gig, it leaches some of the fun out of it. I feel as though you are largely winning the struggle, because putting your ambition and your charisma and your drive and your passion into things is something that's very natural to you. It's a very natural state for you, but it is taking a bit of a toll around your sort of mental. It's a bit mentally exhausting. It feels petty. It feels, as I say, like there's like competition that's not quite at your level, but it could be a little bit sort of undermining of what you're trying to do at the moment. And I think that the lack of a Pentacles energy there may be that sometimes there is a lot of promise in everything you do creatively, but landing whatever it is in this highly competitive environment is hard. So for instance, you may be an amazing writer or an amazing painter or something like that, but something in the industry is really a bit corrosive and a bit difficult to deal with, and doesn't seem to be about the love and the passion of what it is. It seems to be about competition, and maybe it's hard to sort of get that contract, to land that publishing deal, to get that exhibition, for instance, or, if you're an actor or actress, to get that role. There's something there. I think it's telling us that thinking about what is the thing that you want to manifest, not just the joy of doing it, but what is it that you want to manifest. It's interesting because when people talk a lot about manifestation, one of the things they say that people normally get wrong is they think, I want X or Y. I want the sort of sports car, or I want the big house on the hill, or I want the top job. And they don't think enough about how they would feel when they get it, and that sort of experience of it. You actually do really well at the experience of it. I think that you maybe haven't fully worked out what that thing is, though, when you get there. So it may well be, if you're in an environment that's also very contested, it's hard for you to work out what would success really mean. You've really developed your skills and so forth, but what is it you're really trying to get? Because I think if you can work that out, then that aligns your spiritual alchemy and your purpose and your drive with something that is an outcome, so that you're less in this constant battle of the passion, and more in manifesting something. So let's ask Spirit to give us a bit of clarification on that for you. Okay. So Spirit is still showing that there's a lack of that sort of grounding energy. So I really think that is something to think about. There isn't any pentacles here. And on one level, for someone as fiery and passionate and dramatic and charismatic as you would be, that sort of makes sense in a way. But don't become an inverse snob about it. I think that there might almost be a level where, or this actually could be partly sort of massive perfectionism, where it's hard for you to land on the final product because it's never perfect enough. It's never dramatic enough. It's never beautiful enough. So there's something, you've either got a kind of a inverse snobbery about, I'm the dramatic, the free, that kind of person. I'm not the sort of, 9-to-5 job or something like that. And I think that's true. And I think if you got stuck in just a 9-to-5 job, you'd need to find something creative to do in it. Otherwise, you would find that very frustrating. But I feel for most who've come here, you aren't really in that world. Or if you are, you're so detached from it. You're living in this much more dramatic, wonderful world. And you're starting to communicate to the world, who you really are with the Page of Swords, possibly using online media, and that's a good use of that energy. It may take you to be more the author of it and less reacting to all the sort of gossip and battles and petty stuff that's around you. There may be, I think there's someone in your friendship circle or maybe your family that is definitely having an impact, who doesn't want you to be as successful as you are. So be aware of that. And again, maybe that grounding is necessary, like to define what success really looks like, because while you're sort of like chasing all the rainbows and so forth, this person may be undermining your sense of emotional equilibrium, maybe gossiping even about you a bit. I think they may pretend to be on your side and on a similar path, but your success diminishes their success in some way. So you need to get a certain degree of freedom from that with the Knight of Wands. You can move a lot faster once I think you unshackle yourself from some of the people who are really just hangers on and competition. But I do feel that the lack of the Pentacles there is something to think about, because you're clever. You're able to use clever stuff and deal with the sort of the debate very well. You do have a strong sort of heart for what you're doing. You're very, very charismatic, very, very emotionally strong, but that is bringing competition, and the lack of that grounding is your one potential Achilles heel. And I think when we look at fire, when that rules the heart, as I say, it's sort of like it could break your heart if you don't finally get to manifest who you're meant to be, because the Queen of Wands wants to self-actualize, and you have everything you should be. If you're not a star already, you should be a star, and whatever that means to you. But I think that's the point. What does it mean to you? Pile 2. I think that's the key thing that you need to do. because once you ground yourself with some earth, you get the logical, harmonious side of things. You get out of the drama. I just feel like you're around a lot of drama, which is you partly thrive on it, but to really get that alchemy in place, you need to also have the material, because it's otherwise it's like you burn too bright and too quick for ultimately succeeding at what you want to succeed at. So think about that energy. Think about what's missing. It's not that you have to become a 9-to-5 person at all, but it is that you need to have that balance. So let's have a look what this looks like in the 3D world. So I had some cards that were underneath, they were pre-chosen underneath the card that you chose to come to this thing. I don't know what they are. They were just intuitively chosen. So one is a card about healing, and then after that, it's a card for each of the major areas of life that the heart code oracles look at. So this should give us a bit of a sense about some of the strengths and the sort of challenge areas within your 3D world. Then we're going to have a look at the spiritual aspect of it. So firstly, the healing card. It says, how teachable are you? Yeah, I think a little bit of tough love here, pile 2. I think you're amazing. I really do. Amazing. But I think that maybe you've been precocious and brilliant for so much of your life that you almost don't think you don't need to go and do the qualification. You don't, like, you're an artist, so you don't need to go and study with a master. You're an amazing actor and you don't need to go into an acting class or whatever. But that is grounding you. That is giving you the material skills. If you think about the 8 of Pentacles, that is in fact the ultimate being taught, learning, developing a skill card. So the lack of the Pentacles that may be what it's really about. It's like you move so fast and you're so bright, but you do also need to learn from others and slow down a bit, because otherwise your passion could like overtake you. So let's look at what that means around relationships. And we have assertive. I don't think there's any doubt you're assertive, and I don't think there's a problem with that. I think it's one of your strengths, but I think you may also have other people who are assertive, equally assertive around you. So there's a little bit of a power struggle to deal with. And I think, again, this may be, in terms of spiritual alchemy, spirit trying to see you that it's not just the debate, it's not just the fight, it's what are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to get to? And then put whatever kind of learning energy and skill development there, so that you're asserting yourself from a stronger base in the way that other people view it. You can't just get by on charisma, beauty, all of that alone. It can take you a long way, but that if you're asserting yourself, do it from a strong and solid base. In terms of finances, see, we've got impulsive. Careful what you spend as well too. If you're not thinking about money, you may spend, you may overspend, to be dramatic, I think you're sort of someone who'd wear wonderful clothes and do all these things, and nothing is wrong with this. I'm not meaning to be critical. It's just that think about the longer term implications of these things. You do need to ground your energy a bit. In your career, we have silence. Okay. So maybe part of this is, I'm getting a sense, maybe some of you are in a more 9-to-5 job at the moment and you don't feel like you can truly be yourself and express yourself. And so that's where that kind of almost inverse snobbery is coming from. I think all that would be saying is, yes, you're probably right not to sort of show all of that in that type of environment. Keep your counsel. But you definitely have the skill and ability to be the thing that you want to be. So maybe if you are in a more conventional world, then keep your counsel about what you're doing, but pursue it, but also get the skills and so forth. And if there's any skills that you can get in the environment that you're in that will help you where you're wanting to go, like for instance, if you're an author, if it's sort of like writing skills and so forth, then take them on. Don't just think, well, this isn't the right environment, so I'm not going to speak up and ask for anything. If you are in a dramatic environment already and there's lots of gossip and there's lots of competition, then silence is probably a good idea, so that you don't show your hand till you're ready. All right, let's look at well-being. And we've got nourish. So anybody that burns this bright might burn the candle at both ends, and in particular you may not be taking in all the nutrients that you should. And so I think there's definitely a sense of nourish your body. Make sure your diet is good. Maybe if you sort of feel kind of almost like overexcited, you know, particularly around your heart and so forth, given that the fire element rules the heart in Chinese medicine, then, you know, there are various sort of herbs and so forth, or foods that are very nourishing for the heart. So maybe think about that. I'm not suggesting you're about to have a heart attack or anything. There's no indication of that. But I think nourishing things along those lines. I think there's also a double edge to this too. I think it's also nourishing that material side of things, and the learning side of things can only go well for you as well. And then in terms of lifestyle, we've got argument. Yeah, you're in a combative environment, that's for sure. And to some degree, you kind of like that a bit, I think, pile 2, because you are a fiery sort of person. You are dramatic. And you're very good at that. You probably win most of the arguments, but there would probably be a fallout that you weren't really aware of. And again, if you have the right learnings and the right skills, you're going to be stronger in the argument. So if you always want to be out there tilting at windmills and doing the sort of the brave fight and all of that kind of thing, then you do need to make sure you're well nourished, and you do need to make sure that what you're asserting is a strong argument. So don't just rely on your charisma and your drama and your beauty and your attractiveness. I mean, I'm not meaning on any level to imply that I think you're being shallow. I don't think that at all. I think you genuinely have an enormous amount to offer in this space. But I think that you are in a competitive environment, or moving into one where you need a few other things in your kit bag, and you need to be really clear, as I say, with the pentacles, on what you want to achieve. So let's have a look at some spiritual support for you, since this is about spiritual alchemy. So firstly, let's have a look at where your soul's evolution is at the moment in relation to this sort of picture for you. Okay, so life path 3, you are on the right path. You're on a creative path, you know, or if you're in a more conventional thing, then you need to move towards a creative path. So the good news is your fire energy is absolutely perfect for you. It should be your dominant energy, but you want to have success through your creative expression, and being an individual is important. So I think you need the material basis and the reputation to really do that. You know, they often say, you know, with sort of artists, for instance, as they learn, they have to learn with the masters first, learn all the rules, then they can break them. There's that kind of feeling about this. And you have to deal with the fact that you're a bit of a lone wolf. You really like independence and you really like your way. And that's fine. And ultimately it will be to your benefit, I think, because I think you're going to really stand out. But again, it's like, don't do it to the detriment of your craft. The fact that we have a spiritual elder here suggests that ultimately there's something in your journey towards your creative expression that could make you a spiritual elder who teaches others. But it also suggests that if there is a spiritual support around you at the moment, to listen to that. And I do think that the key message that this spiritual energy is telling you is to really understand what it is that you want, because you definitely have the ability. It's just that you might be sort of putting all your energy in so many different directions at the moment, and often in reaction to what's competition, or what is seen to be the best role to have, or the best art gallery to be in, or whatever it might be. Whereas if you got a better sense of who you are, what that lone wolf wants to do, then you know what that looks like in a material sense, you'll be better off. So let's have a look at what spiritual gifts might help you to get this. To find the grounding, I think that's all you really need, is the grounding at the moment, pile 2. Astral projection, dark night of the soul, and life path 6. Okay, so this is interesting. This looks like, I think astral projection, you're all over. You are probably very, very good at that. And it's probably, you get a lot of your inspiration from that sort of stuff. It'd be very easy for you to meditate and have an out-of-body experience, teleportation, that sort of thing. Don't think there's a problem there. I think, again, there might be a little bit of too much of it. You need to ground the energy. To get to this, and I think this is partly this lone wolf, to understand, to truly understand what you want, rather than reacting to just being the brightest star on the horizon, and actually understanding what that means. I do think that most of you may go through a dark night of the soul. And the interesting thing about the dark night of the soul is a path of initiation, as this says. And people talk about it a lot, and I'm thinking of actually doing a pick a card reading on the Dark Night of the Soul to talk about what it was originally, because it was originally a poem written by St. John who was a Christian mystic, and it was about the ultimate unknowability of God, at least in the 3D world, and yet the yearning to have that. And it kind of connects with within our spirit. We have the lone wolf, the I, the ego, all of that sort of thing, and that's all important, and we need that. But we also have that wish for community and to connect with others. And I think this is saying that part of your pathway, when you really start to look at the fact that you are not going to get the degree of acclaim that your talents could give you until you work out what that really looks like and manifest that in the world. And that, I think, will take a dark night of the soul. It will take you looking at who you want to be individually with how you want to be with others. Because all our souls bash up against each other on that level. One side of us very much wants to be the I, the ego. The other side wants to be accepted, wants to be part of a community. There is something that will come in, and I think this is where the Pentacles energy will come in for you through the dark night of the soul. And you will realize that even though you ultimately will be very strong, very bright star, you are here in a sense to serve others and to love others. This does not mean that, you have to be in some subordinate role, but what you really want to do underneath all of this is create something that is spiritually resonant and that will help others. And once you've defined that, you're unstoppable. But I think that there's something about the glamour of the world and the many gifts that you have. I think you're multi-talented, that could keep you off course until you really go internally and really work that through. Once you do, wow, like wow. But that is going to be necessary for the spiritual alchemy of your soul. So let's finish off with some energetic stuff. So firstly, I'm using the Elemental Oracle because it seemed to me that may be another way Spirit can tell us anything else about the nuances of the elemental energies around you. Then we're going to use the the Astro Chakra card, to bring it all together. So firstly, elemental energies around you. Wow, okay. Animals and storms. Well, it's kind of a bit of both, isn't it, really, here for you? So on one hand, you may be someone who very much connects to animals. There may be something you may like to work with animals on some level, animal totems, animal spirit guides, all of that sort of thing. But it is very much the earthy side of things and the community side of things. And I think that is the part of you that you'll become more and more connected to. You may also have a wolf as a spirit guide. So maybe look into what that might mean for you and what resonates for you. But you are also going to be in the eye of the storm, the dark night of the soul. It's like being in a storm, but it's also that you are in a dramatic environment. Whatever you do is going to be a bit dramatic. Having said that, storms can cleanse away stuff. So again, if you know what you want to grow and build, you can let the storms wash over everything and clear out the energy that is not supporting that. So I think you have an enormous amount of power. You're like a powder keg waiting to go off, but you need to know what it is you're really trying to achieve. Not just to win for the sake of it, but to win for something greater than yourself that will ultimately make it clear who you are. So I hope that resonates. Oh, hang on. Got to do the Astro Chakra cards as well too. I think it's just you've got so much energy. Almost jumped to the end, but let's bring it together with the Astro Chakra cards as well. Okay, so we have the third chakra first. That doesn't surprise me, as I say, you're a powder keg. You have a very strong sense of self. You probably did from childhood, in fact, and that's wonderful. And there's a lot of energy and passion with Mars here that you put into that. The fire energy you don't have to worry about. You've got it in spades. What you need to do is align it with your crown chakra, with what's sort of coming into you sort of telepathically and from spirit, to be able to define your freedom in a way that has a spiritual resonance. Because part of this Mars energy and this fire energy is the will to individuality, and that is connected to your spiritual path and freedom. So you would not be reaching your sort of chemical alchemy or spiritual alchemy if it was not partly about expressing your freedom. But it is also within a structure that is right, that is grounded, and that is responsible, and that ultimately is serving to more than yourself. With Saturn in the house of communication, you will ultimately speak with great authority on what you're doing. And it may well be that although I think you're going to have a brilliant career and a brilliant sort of life and stardom and God knows what else, I think that really when you get older, there's going to be a truth that you can speak. It's like you move from charisma to gravitas. And you'll probably always have the charisma, but charisma is all about the show, the fire, the drama. People get really drawn to it, but people really trust the gravitas. And I think you will have both, but that is what you need to find. You need to find your cause. You need to find the thing that you want to bring into being. Use all that energy. Don't just kind of burn it out. And as I say, once you do that, you're unstoppable, but you're also somebody who's going to be very, very much respected by other people as you develop this. It's not just going to be that they're going to admire you, they're going to respect you. So I hope that that resonates for you, pile 2, and I hope that it was helpful. If so, please like the video and subscribe, and if you care to share, let us know about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So these first cards here are using the tarot deck that I chose for the air or metal element. And they're meant, firstly, I'm going to look at them in terms of the balance of the elements and what that's telling me about the energies around your spiritual alchemy at the moment, what's there, what's missing, what's too much or too little, and all that kind of thing. Then I'll look at it in terms of a narrative, and then we will use some more tarot to get clarification on it. So the first thing I would say is that you've come here as an air element person. There's only one air element card that's come up. Having said that, you have 3 major arcana. And to me, the major arcana in this first sweep of looking at this is where external events are impacting you as opposed to being your own internal balance, your own spiritual alchemy. So something big is going on around you at the moment. And I do feel a kind of air element around the Hanged Man because it is about reconsidering things in a different perspective. So whatever is happening in your life at the moment, and I will get into it, but I feel that it's something that's been a little bit disruptive and maybe made you wonder about a relationship or about an aim that you had and possibly a partnership that you had. There is the sense that you will naturally go into a perspective. That's your natural thing to do, and that is good. Your response to external things is to look at them from a kind of intellectual perspective, and that's good. And it's particularly good because the one swords card here is the 10 of swords, but it's reversed. And I think that's telling me instead of all the drama that tends to be around the 10 of swords, you very naturally move from the catastrophizing that the 9 and 10 of swords can give into the problem solving, the different perspective. You're the sort of person who, when things go wrong, you don't fret a lot. You actually really start to analyze and work out what to do next. You're the ultimate strategist. Very, very good at that. I think one of the issues, however, is that there is an absence of cups here, so you can be sometimes a bit emotionally detached. This is probably not a bad thing right now with what's going on, because I feel like there's some sort of emotional element that hasn't worked in your life, whether it's a love relationship, a friendship, a work relationship, I'm not sure, but something like that. And we also don't have fire energy, though you could argue to some extent the star is a bit like that, but it's actually ruled by an air sign. So it's possible that it's actually more of the air energy for you. So if we are looking at that as another part of the air sign for you, it might be saying when it's reversed that you don't catastrophize, but it does impact when plans go awry. It does impact your sort of sense of overall hope, and it makes you look at life. Life must be pragmatic. Life cannot be idealistic, and so forth. And there is potentially an issue there for you. In terms of the narrative of this, as I say, it's kind of a similar thing. I feel like there's a relationship issue or a relationship choice that has not been working out in the way that you would have expected. It may be someone who's been duplicitous, because picking up the Gemini energy of the lovers, when that isn't working positively, it can be someone who's a bit two-faced. And you've come to a different view about this person. You have done it in a very pragmatic way, but I think it has touched your heart in some way, made you sort of cover your heart over and keep it out of view to some extent. And you're certainly a lot more gun shy about making choices about who to collaborate with, who to work with. If it's within a workplace, you may be very careful now about what decisions about who you work with going forward. You may even decide to leave somewhere that you are if that's the case, because it's definitely not been a good thing that's occurred, but your capacity to think it through and not to stay in a catastrophized environment is great. The only risk around this, I think, is of getting so pragmatic and so in your head that you lose the heart of it because of the lack of the water and the fire energy here. So let's have a look at what Spirit would clarify around this to give us a little bit more information about this balance and so forth. Because if you stick too much in your head, then you can end up being kind of detached, shut off, overcritical of yourself and of others and all those sorts of things. So that's the thing too, and that can have an impact, and it can give you sort of nervous anxiety. I don't think though for you it's so much nervous anxiety as almost isolationism. So let's see what clarification we can get for you. Okay, I think for most who've come here, this, although you are very much someone who lives in your head and you operate from your head, and this is definitely, the way that you can process stuff, and you're extremely good at it, and it is a key part of your spiritual alchemy. Whatever this is highly emotional. That's why there weren't any cups there. It's sort of like they're at the second layer. You're protecting your heart at the moment. Some of this is about protecting your heart. So I actually think that you are primarily sort of air, metal, but there's a lot of water in you, but you use your mind to keep your emotions under strict regulation. And I feel like somebody broke your heart, or somebody really disappointed you, didn't turn out to be the kind of right connection that you thought they were. I don't think it stopped you from thinking you would have relationships, but I feel like the Knight of Cups is tempered by the Star reverse there, so it's sort of like won't be filled again sort of energy. So I think the next relationship you could go into, you could get very precise about what you wanted, and I think there would just be a little bit of a warning about that, because you are also someone who comes from your heart. So don't let your head rule so much that you don't fully connect to what you want to do, that you kind of always stay a little bit distant and separate with the Two of Swords. With the Sun there, something better is coming through. And it's really interesting to have the Sun with the Ten of Swords reversed, because the Ten of Swords, whether it's upright or not, is sort of almost, it's always darkest before the dawn, and I feel like the dawn is coming. So whatever this is, you are in the process of coming out of it, and you have managed it very well, because you can kind of put it in a philosophical framework and you can transmute the energy that way, and that does actually help your spiritual alchemy, because you're understanding. The key to you for spiritual understanding is knowledge and understanding. So that is why you can do that, but there is also the heart, and spiritual alchemy is always from the heart in many ways, so don't lose that. So let's have a look at what's happening in the 3D around this before we have a look at the spiritual side of things. So there are a range of cards that I intuitively pulled for this particular reading that was under the tarot card that brought you here. I don't know what they are, they're just intuitively pulled, but firstly there's a card about healing, and then we're going to look at the heart code oracles for all the various elements and situations they look at to get a little bit more practical knowledge about what's going on here and what advice Spirit has for you. So in the healing we have courage. So yes, I think it's the courage not to just sit in this incredibly smart mind of yours and stay detached, because I think that would get you out of balance in the end, and it would stop you from seeing the new sun coming through. There is something better. If this wasn't a romantic relationship, then it was a friendship or a business partnership. Don't let it make you jaded, because that's the sort of downside of really strong mental energy, is you can get so walled off and so isolated by it and so cynical, and you can actually think cynicism and intelligence are synonyms, and they are. Like intelligence is much broader than that, and you have a lot of emotional intelligence, so don't suppress it. So looking at that, what do we have around relationships? And we have, it's hard to read, but self-focused. I think it's okay. I think Spirit is saying it's okay to be self-focused now. I think you actually are having to lick your wounds a bit around relationships and focus again in on what it is that you want and what you want to create. The good news for you is, because you are so air-oriented, that will be very quick. You will think it through very fast. The air element is the fastest element of the lot. You're going to move through that very fast and so forth. It is possible with self-focus that meditation could be good. Take time out to breathe. If you think about the fact that the metal element, which is the closest connection to the air element here, in the tarot is about the lungs. So I think it could be saying that some of that could come through a meditative practice that also connects you to your heart. So breathe, you know, thinking of your heart and so forth. Around money for you, we've got error. So, okay, so maybe some of this had a material impact. Maybe there has been that. Maybe that's why the Two of Pentacles is there. Maybe you felt you made the wrong choice about the person to partner with in one way or another, and it's had a material impact. The thing about it, though, is that you're very clever. So an error can occur even to the cleverest person, but you are able to rectify that and take the catastrophe away quite quickly. So in rectifying an error and putting it into perspective, use that genius that you have with your air, with your mind and so forth. Around your career, okay, we've got self-sabotage. So yeah, there's something here. See, this is the thing too, because you are so strong in your mind, if you turned your mind against yourself, you could self-sabotage. But I think it's been about somebody you've trusted or connected to, romantically, friendship, business, something like that. This is actually quite likely to be in business, given these cards coming up. But again, don't self-sabotage yourself going forward by thinking, well, that's it, it's all over, because you are more than able to bring the sunshine back. You're very clever, you can replan, you can come back pragmatically, but also don't sabotage yourself emotionally as well. Don't get so self-focused emotionally because you feel like, well, that's proven to me, I shouldn't be that you self-sabotage on another level, because I think that your ultimate spiritual alchemy is that connection between the mind and the heart. Okay, so let's get a little bit more to things like that. So let's have a look at basic well-being. And we've got triggers. Yeah, you've been through something. You've been through something. But I think if anybody could understand their triggers, it's you. Because I do think that's where the air element will really help you. You can understand that. And you'd probably be the sort of person who would go and get therapy and that kind of modality to help you, which is good. And I think you could also understand when the triggers were cutting you off so that you didn't lose that. So I think the triggers are almost something to be embraced in this, to see it as the pathway to bringing things back into balance and to moving forward with a more balanced alchemical approach to life. And then your lifestyle has transparency. Yeah, I think this is the other thing. I think that you're a very fair, a very balanced person. You're someone who would not do somebody wrong, who their word is their bond, all of that kind of thing. And don't change that. You know, you will always be that ethical person, and in the end that will work for you. It's just there's been something that has not been right in the way that you've been treated. Okay, so that's the 3D. Let's have a look at the spiritual. So let's first of all look at what kind of evolution of the soul stage you're at with your spiritual alchemy and what advice Spirit would have about that. Okay, so it's nice to see perspective shift there because you had the Hanged Man as well. I think you can do that. I think you're more natural at doing that than most. I think most people would be almost in awe of how quickly you can kind of recalibrate your thought patterns about things and use that. Because if you take this phase of deep questioning this talks about to get past the lies and delusions and see life in a different way to bring the sun out, then that's going to be remarkably healing for you, and I think also very inspiring for others. I think it brings better connections in because you're meant to have meaningful connections, not to kind of isolate yourself as a result of this. I think that you have spiritual ancestors watching over you. I think that they are communicating with you to try and make sure you don't lose the heart of things in the midst of all of this. It may also be that some of what you went through, for some this is quite specific, but for some you might have been clearing ancestral karma. And that's done now. And you were the right person for it because you have that clarity of mind, the capacity to do it. But don't let it submerge your heart or even the fire of your own creative energy. So if the ancestors want to help you and Spirit wants to help you, what kind of spiritual gifts or approaches might be good for you in ensuring that balance? Pile 3. So Life Path 9. Energy Healer, and Empath. Okay, this is one of the reasons why you cannot suppress your heart, pile 3, because you are an empath. It's part of the reason why you have the clarity of mind. But I think for you, it primarily feels like it's in your head. It's something you think, but you are just as much connected to the heart. And it is really, really important not to close that off, because what you will find then is you feel like suddenly there's a information source lacking. Like, where's half that sort of intuitive, brilliant mind? Because some of it was coming from the heart, some of it was coming from empathy, and that's why connections are important. Yes, sometimes they can be duplicitous and difficult, but overall, this is part of who you are. And you may need some energy healing to do that, or it might be that part of your empath thing is actually healing to others. But either way, it may be a way to re-establish that connection. Your life path is meant to be the peacemaker, life path 9. It does have the ruling planet of Mars, so you are able to go into battle, particularly over a cause when it's necessary, and to shift things in negotiations and so forth as well. But you do need to understand how much information is coming to you from the heart level and from the emotional level, because you're more comfortable in your mind, but you're underestimating that a lot of what you think is in your mind is actually in your heart. So I think that's very, very important for you. So to close off, let's have a look at some elemental energy of another sort to sort of see what else in terms of nuances around the elements, and then we'll use the Astro Chakra cards for some final advice. So what other nuances, Spirit, can we tell pile 3 around the elemental energy that they're processing and balancing for their spiritual alchemy? Got music and passion. Okay, so maybe that is simply saying that if all else fails, go to music. Because music, if you think about it, is the heart and is the intellect connected. Music has a precision, it is a mathematical thing, the music of the spheres and so forth, but it is also the thing that connects us to our heart and to our passion. And Spirit very much wants you to reconnect to that, because you have detached from it. You have, and you're still brilliant, but you are dulling your own edge. And there's so much more that once you reconnect. But music, I think, would help you. I think if you meditate, if you're going through energy healing, make sure the music is played around you that really kind of reignites your sense of your heart and your passion and so forth. And I think if this was a broken heart, there's a new relationship coming in that's going to reawaken the passion and will be a better relationship for you. Okay. Let's finish off with the Astro Chakra cards, see what they want to say to bring it all together for you. Okay, so communication's really important. Once you've sort of worked this out, communicating it's very important, both spiritually and also in terms of how you voice your feelings. Because we have Mercury as a planet of communication in the 7th chakra, so direct connection to the divine. So contemplation, taking time out, meditating, listening to music, connecting to your ancestral sort of spirit guides, going to be very important, because it helps you work out what you want to communicate about what you feel, and to reopen your throat chakra to be able to voice feelings, to not suppress them because of this. Mercury again over here in your self-esteem, then I feel like it goes like that. It comes in the spirituality, you can express your feelings, and then you regain your power, your true power, which is a combination of your core being, which is this air energy, this really brilliant mind, with the heart, and that is through the communication of that, and it brings back the self-esteem. It is possible that some of you have suffered a bit of a blow to your self-esteem, but luckily you are philosophical enough to pick yourself up maybe quicker than other people. Just don't lose the heart in the midst of it, because it's a key part of what you need to communicate and a key part of your power. So I hope that resonates for you, pile 3, and I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you care to share, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 4, to your reading. So this first line of cards is to get a bit of a sense of the alchemical and spiritual basis for you in terms of the elements, in terms of your spiritual alchemy. And the first way I'm going to look at it is in the nature of the type of cards and what I think that's telling me about the balance, and then we'll look at the narrative of the cards themselves. The first thing that I would say out of that is that you've come to this because you naturally gravitate to and feel your primary element is probably water, is emotion and so forth. There's only one water card here, And it's the Eight of Cups too, which suggests changes and moving away from something. So I think that many of you have probably gravitated to this because you're going through a transition around how you feel emotionally. And because what you feel in your heart and emotionally is so key to you, you are open to that transition. So there's something that is evolutionary and revolutionary about your spiritual alchemy at the moment. And I think, so I'm not that concerned that there's only one cups there. The nature of the cup that you brought, the Eight of Cups, shows an emotional intelligence and a wisdom and a preparedness to go to the next level. And you are otherwise quite well balanced. There isn't any swords energy here. There may be later, but there isn't in this. We have wands and we have pentacles. So you are well balanced in the sense of sort of ego and ambition drives and manifesting things. Particularly with the Knight of Pentacles, you're likely to be very emotionally loyal with that, as well as able to really commit to what you want to create and bring into the world. There is something around dominance in this though, because we have two major arcana cards, and in the first sweep that is saying that there are external factors that are impacting this. 2/5 of the energy around your spiritual alchemy is being driven from the outside, whereas 3/5 are being driven from the inside. That does say to your emotional intelligence that I think that you have, your high EQ, keeps you in the driver's seat, but there are significant things that are going on. And it looks to me as though it's something around career or power that is drawing you out from maybe feeling a little bit naturally shy or withdrawn. You may not be someone who really likes to be in a leadership role or seen, or if you are in a leadership role, you like to be a kind of servant leader, not somebody who has to just take control and be on center stage. But something is going on in your life that is drawing you more into the spotlight, career-wise or power-wise or something like that. Or there is some sort of battle going on about who you want to be compared to maybe what a parental figure wants you to be, and you're having to literally come out from hiding away as the hermit and really starting to voice who you are and find where your right connections are and what you can be loyal to in a material level. And it may require moving away from old patterns, old relationships, old ways of expressing yourself, potentially emotionally. But you're in that phase. I think quite a lot of the people who come here, even if you are someone who naturally says, look, I'm more water than anything, I've got lots of water sign planets in my chart and all that kind of thing, I think that you're actually a bit more balanced than you think around all of that. But I just think at the moment there is a strong focus on your emotional balance and your emotional growth and what steps you have to take in the world for that. So let's ask Spirit for some more clarification around that, to see a little bit more detail about what's going on and the balance of energy that you're transmuting and manifesting and processing at this point in time, Pile 4. Okay. So there's something about departure and leaving something here, definitely. For some of you, this is about leaving home, depending upon your age, or potentially leaving a relationship and starting out on your own, potentially, if you've sort of been in a longer term partnership. There's definitely something about departing something, and you didn't really want to make the decision to do that. You really didn't. The decision here is being forced by external forces, by some other authority or some other requirement on you. And, you can see on one level that there is growth opportunities out of this, but it's not an easy thing. It's like a wrench in a way. It's like leaving something that was happy, not being sure if you can be happy again. It could very well be leaving a nurturing figure in your life, whether that's a parental figure or whether it's a work colleague or boss or teacher or something like that. It's got something to do with cutting the cords in a way and being independent. And that's why you're processing it emotionally. I think when there are major changes in your life, you process it emotionally, but I think you have a great deal of maturity and creative approaches to do that with the Empress energy there. That's ultimately where you're going to end up. You're going to end up being the Empress, which is sort of, to me, an amalgam of Cups energy and Earth energy. It's the really warm, nurturing, emotional thing, but also that sort of groundedness that we see there with the Knight of Pentacles and the Nine of Pentacles. So I think you are, if there is a secondary element to you in terms of your alchemy, it would be around pentacles, around earthing things and around grounding things. But you do find it hard. You don't like making decisions. I think this is why we see lots of earth energy, we see lots of emotional energy, a little bit of fire. We're not seeing the head. You don't like to make those decisions. You don't like to be forced into that situation. I think it's almost external things that trigger you to make the changes. Then you do it with a great deal of grace. And you know, there might be a little bit of heartache sometimes, but you really do make something wonderful out of it in whatever you change and do. But you're not likely to be the person to precipitate the change or to make a decision prematurely or precipitously. You really do respond to your environment, and it's just something that is pushing you out of a nest in some way, whatever that means to you in whatever element of your life. But I do think that it's good, because I think you do need to come a little bit out from behind the shadows. You have a lot to offer. You're very naturally creative. You're very naturally abundant, and you can manifest and so forth. I just think that you're very self-effacing and a bit shy. And I think that spirit is nudging you with whatever this is. So it may feel like something is being done to you, but it's being done for you, if that makes sense. So let's see what this looks like in the material world. So there was a group of cards that I intuitively pulled for each of the decks, and so these are the ones for the fourth reading. It starts with a card about healing, and then we're going to use the heart code oracles for each of the different aspects of the heart code oracles to see the different aspects of your life. So the healing energy around you is temptation. That's interesting. Maybe it is saying that once you get past, or maybe a way to get past this sort of reluctance to make the decision and move on and change, is to find something that is tempting, emotionally tempting enough to do it. It could be saying that's the only way you'll do things, to change things, unless somebody forces you on it, in which case I'm getting a feeling that maybe someone who cares a great deal about you actually is giving you an opportunity that is too good to miss. And although it's a wrench, you have to leave home or leave your friendships or something like that, the temptation is part of healing you so that you can become more of who you could be and really, really manifest who you could be. So let's see the impact on relationships. And we have love from beyond. Okay, so it's going to mean a couple of things. It could mean sort of ancestors, people who have passed on, who are manipulating the world a bit to bring this opportunity for you. And again, it's about love. It's about caring for you. Could also be the potential of like a 5D type of connection, a twin flame connection, that is a temptation that is going to be drawing you into becoming your manifestation and being who you're meant to be. But there's something a little bit sort of spiritual and woo about this. Like there is definitely a powerful force working towards you, recognizing how much you have to offer the world and offer yourself, but your kind of hesitancy, the sort of self-effacing element is I think being nudged. Around money, we have legalities. Okay, very specific thing, and this will only be the case, I have to say, if it's already happened. I'm not predicting this happening to anybody, but for some this may be where someone has passed on and there is an inheritance, and the love from beyond is already coming. So this is only going to be fitting if the person has already passed on. So please don't take this as a prediction that someone around you is going to die. That's not what I'm seeing here. I'm seeing something that would have already occurred if that was the case. If it's not around an inheritance, it maybe gives you the wherewithal to go out into the world and really become who you are. It may be saying that some of the sort of external pressures on you and the making you make decisions are around legal issues, around ownership of a creative project, around what is in your employment contract or something like that. So let's have a look at career. And we have inner conflict. So yes, it could be that for many of you, this departure is not necessarily from a home, but from a team that you liked working with and so forth, because there's been some conflict coming up in the workplace. But again, I feel like if that's the case, this is being orchestrated so that you start to really step into who you are, because you're not just the emotional person, even though I think that you feel that way. You feel things very, very deeply, but you are also fiery, and you are also with the sort of pentacles. And I think if you weren't avoiding making decisions, you'd also be very balanced around the intellect as well. You're certainly smart. That's not the issue. Very, very strong EQ, as I say, as well. So let's have a look at well-being. We've got the immune system. Okay, so when the immune system comes up to me, I think that that's sort of showing, are you getting the right nourishment? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you doing all those sorts of things? Because your immune system can go down when you have stress, when you're overtired, when you're not getting the right balance of nutrients or whatever. So it could be worth checking up on that. It could be worth getting some advice from medical practitioners, because that can make you feel run down and make you feel more put upon by the world than possibly you need to. And it could be emotionally triggered, like stress could be triggering it. So I think that's definitely something that's worth looking into. And then around your lifestyle, we have mirror. So that's interesting. It may even be that you, because I think you're highly empathic, you may mirror other people. It might be what makes it hard to make the separations. But I think it's also the fact that people will mirror you. If you are the one who can finally take this step and go out and do what is emotionally authentic to you, I think others may follow. So if this has been in a conflict situation at work or in a group or something like that, I think you have the capacity to mirror to people what you change and do is also something that they could think to change and do. And this is, I think, while you're getting this love from beyond, you're getting this sort of spiritual stuff, because there's something about the spiritual healer within you of some sort. So talking about such things, let's look at this spiritual side of all of this for you, pile 4. So firstly, let's have a look at where the evolution of your soul is at this point in time, and around whatever this change is that you're doing to become more in the world who you are, I think. So victory, so that's nice. Answers within. And life path 5. Okay. So firstly, I think that this is saying trust. There's something about the misuse of power or unfairness, and it may even have been orchestrated just to get you to sort of get up and move on because somebody actually meant the best for you. But if there has been sort of abuse of power, any of those sorts of issues, or you felt constrained, you will have the victory. This is saying that you are moving towards the 9 of Pentacles and the Knight of Pentacles. You're moving towards manifesting what you want to manifest. Once you've taken that first step and taken that, really deep empathy and understanding that you have, you can win, you will win. And you don't really have to worry that much about the legalities and the inner conflicts. You can bring that into being. Most of the answers to your questions are within, but I think part of that is also recognizing that you need to have a philosophy. You need that a plan. That's why the lack of swords needs to be sort of brought into balance, because you've got everything else in your kit bag, but I think you doubt your own belief structure about something. So go within and get the answers there. Open up the inner air energy, the inner metal energy within you, and then you'll be able to really manifest life path 5, which is adaptable and spontaneous and independent, and you can just do whatever, and you can go with the flow. You use all those skills, and as I say, that really great EQ to be able to almost swim through the stream and deal with everything, and nothing really stops you at that point. Let's see what spiritual gifts you might have, or approaches you could take, or supports that you could get that will help you. Ascension path 8, which is the mental plane. Yeah, you do need to bring that in. It's not that you don't have it, it's just that you don't, it's not your go-to, but I think that it will help you. You will find all the answers and you'll get more self-confident about that. I think you might have just not been confident about expressing what you felt within a conflict situation or a difficult situation, but the reality is your EQ and IQ are really off the charts. You bring them together, you're unstoppable. We have tarot card reader, and we have blogger platform. Okay, so it may be that coming to tarot card readings is actually really helpful for you, that it gives you that aha moment. Hopefully maybe this tarot reading has helped. It may also be that you are someone with the balance of all of those energies and that great EQ who would be a fabulous tarot card reader, or person who works with divination in general. And I said you could potentially be a healer, and there's a healing aspect to this as well too, with the understanding of the energies and the elements and so forth. So So being on the ascension plane that brings this into some sort of a structure, maybe because tarot is a structure, it is a language, it is a set of archetypes. That's the missing bit. Then you can maybe take it out to the world with the blogger platform. You can really come out from behind the scenes, but maybe in a way that's comfortable to you, because if you don't want to be on a stage, but you would like to get your message out, then blogging or those sorts of things are a way to do it. So I think you are meant to really shine and move forward, and there's a lot of spiritual support around you to take you there, but you need to rate your mind as much as you rate your emotions and the other aspects of your life. So to finish off, I want to look at firstly what other elemental energy is around you, just for a little bit more nuancing from Spirit, and then I'm going to use the Astro Chakra cards to bring it all together. So Spirit, what other elemental energy is around pile 4 at this point in time? Got the Mountain and the Outer Core. Wow, okay. So I think what that is saying, firstly, you are at the beginning of a long journey. You are going to climb one mountain and find there's another mountain after it and another mountain after it. That's going to be part of your journey, because you're meant to be leading people in some way with all those elements working together. If you're going to climb a mountain, you need all the elements. You need to have a strategic plan, you need to have the energy, you need to have the physical stamina, and you need to have the ambition. So you bring all of those together and you get that kind of clarity. And clarity, again, is an air element. It's like, get the clarity, because otherwise a lot of your emotion is sort of like on the outer core. It's like you are a little bit vulnerable to all this change, and I think that's why you hide yourself away, because it's all very, very sort of like open. I think the clarity gives you the protection around that, and it allows you to have the fluidity to change and move in a way that you want without feeling vulnerable. Okay, to finish off, let's get some Astro Chakra cards. Okay, so something about all of this, whatever this power issue was, in whatever aspect of your life it's operating, it is about you starting to stand up for your beliefs and stand in your own authority and develop your own authority, because you've picked it up sort of intuitively and spiritually. You know spiritually that you need to be free. That's part of your EQ. You know that. You need to move through things emotionally and not stay stuck on things just because of sort of feelings. You need to kind of keep that forward momentum and keep moving forward, because you are meant to be very individual. You are meant spiritually to show the value of freedom and flexibility and fluidity. And a lot of the potential energy that you can use for that, the fire energy, the Mars energy, you get sort of telepathically, and they're about what you believe. But equally, if you give over that power to an Emperor type, then your beliefs get suppressed. So I think it's very important to know that you need to own your own power. This is part of it. And your own discipline. You have that in spades anyway. With the Nine of Pentacles and the Knight of Pentacles, the Saturn energy works really well for you. And I think with the throat chakra, it means once you've brought all that together, you've really understood who you are and what your beliefs are, then you speak with authority. This is why you will probably teach others, you will be a healer for others, you will be a role model for others. But I do think with Saturn there, as I say, it feels like the mountains. It's a long journey, and you will hit different peaks at different times, and that's fine. It's not like it's sort of you've got to wait till you're 60 to achieve anything. It's more like, there's an achievement at 20, there's another achievement at 30, there's another achievement at 40, and so forth, because the more you know of yourself, the more you can grow, and the more that your authority and your capacity to see things through and take that authority and take that voice out into the world will come. So you do come from the heart. It does give you the fluidity and the capacity to change and move and all of those sort of things. And you do balance with other things, but you do need to also own the air side of you. So you do need to move almost from being more like water and pentacles and being a little bit more like water and air. I think those two together really help your spiritual alchemy. So I hope that resonates and makes sense for you, Pile 4, and I hope it was helpful. Hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you care to share about it, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.